those things which are above him. That is a phrase that they use, and I'm sympathetic to that. I understand what they're saying. They're trying. I think in a way, Edwards sort of tried to make that same argument with his understanding of the freedom of the will, that man has a free will to do those things that he desires to do. The problem is the things that are above him are beyond his desires, right? That would be my understanding of Edwards, at least in regard to his trying to express that man does make legitimate choices, and those choices are free choices in the sense that he's free to do what he wants to do. The problem is his want is what is...
His wanter's broken.
Yeah,
Sproul talks about this. His wanter's born broken.
Yeah. Well, I said this in a sermon recently. I said God gave me a new wanna. The wanna, right? So in that regard, I think that that would be and I'm sure you have 1,000 thoughts on that you'd want to say, but what are your thoughts when someone says, well, things that are beneath me, or when I say beneath me, you understand, the things that are
within your control,
within my control, I have the freedom.
Well, I just happen to think that it's within your control to accept or reject the gospel.
Okay.
And so the fact that Calvinists don't is where we disagree. And
is there anything outside of my control?
Well, sure, you can't start flapping your arms and flying.
Okay.
So that would be one example.
Let me back up. And again, I don't want people to say my tone sounded as if I was being debating, and I'm not. No. But okay, so you and I think would both agree that it is beyond my control to, from this moment on, never sin again.
Well, again, what would you consider logically possible versus feasible? And
we had this conversation. They didn't get to hear us have this conversation.
And I can go over it again if you want me to, but it kind of goes down the line of some of the philosophical issues of if any moment of sin from this point forward, you leave this place, and let's say you're stopped by a police officer and you're tempted to lie to him in order to get out of the ticket or not to lie. Do you have the free choice as a Christian to say yes or no? And I think most people generally would say, yeah, you could lie or not lie. Well, that would be a choice of libertarian freedom. Now, to do that with every single temptation you have from now until the end of your life, you could go to each one of those and say, well, yes, it's logically possible that you're going to make the right decision in any given moment. Is it feasible to suggest that a sinful person with sinful desires in a fallen world with dozens of temptations hitting them every hour of the day with thoughts and attitudes and hearts that you would never, ever, ever, ever sin again? No, it's not feasible that would happen. Is it logically possible? Yes, you can make that argument, because at every point of temptation, the person, I would think a born-again person especially, has as 1 Corinthians 10:13, the way of escape, the ability to take the right action when pressed with temptation. And so that would be how I'd answer.
And I have to ask this question, and this may not be a simple answer. We'll see. And I know we could be here all night, so I can't keep
They're
going
closing
forever.
the doors. Yeah.
I know. Is sin a choice only, or is sin a nature?
It depends on what you mean by nature, and I know that's a
this may be
fun
something
philosophical answer to that, but that's very true.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily philosophical. I think when Paul talks about in Romans, for instance, where we're referring to it's not me that sin, but the sin that dwelleth within me. Right? Like he's not referring to a choice at that point. I think he's referring to something within him.
The only reason I mention it depends on what you mean by nature is that sometimes when people are referring to nature, they're talking about their desires or the character, for example. Yeah. So if I see the nature or desires as influential, not determinative. So, for example, I love cake. I love the taste of cake.
What's cake? Yeah, right. Yeah.
By the way, your joke about the beard.
My double chin. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I have self-deprecating humor.
Well, Jeff said, I have a beard, because they were talking about, the Calvinists have a beard. He goes, I don't have a beard because I'm a Calvinist. I have a beard because I have no chin.
And I said, I have one because I have two.
That's hilarious. That got the crowd rolling. Anyway, what were we talking about? Nature. Okay, so desires. Mm-hmm. I don't think desires are determinative. I think the agent is the determiner. Desires influence the agent. Mm-hmm. And so I have a desire to eat cake. I also have a desire to lose weight, okay? Both of those are competing desires. If I choose to eat cake because it tastes so good, that doesn't mean the taste of cake determined my choice to eat. I chose to eat based upon that desire. If I choose the other direction, which I could and should, especially if my wife's around, I'm more likely to, because she's my accountability partner when it comes to me eating correctly, then I may make a choice based upon that desire. but the desire is influential. So I'm not making a choice without reasons. I have a reason. I ate the cake because it tastes so good. I ate the cake because I really love cake. I was really, really hungry. There's a lot of those desires, but desires aren't determinative. And when a Calvinist argues that we make a choice based upon our greatest desire, they turn desire from an influence into a determinative factor, that it ultimately determines the agent to make the choice, which I think reduces humanity to animal instinctive reflexes, where the lion chooses to eat meat instead of a bale of hay because it's his greatest desire. Well, of course it's his greatest desire, because he's an instinctive being, an instinctive creature that is always going to choose meat over grass. The cow, however, walks up to the same pile of meat and the pile of hay, and he chooses the hay instinctively, not as a moral choice. And that's the difference, is we're not making choices just based upon our instinctive God-given desire at the moment of choice. We are making moral decisions as human beings, weighing our options. But the cause of a choice is the chooser. The cause of a determination is the determiner. We are choice makers. God made us choice makers. He made us determiners. We determine our own choices.